Okay, so a planet begins and a Sanskrit ancient text is placed somewhere. Okay? And, different beings will come down and get the planet moving. They'll interpret, they'll teach the Sanskrit. That's usually the first language. It's the divine language. And in these books that appear periodically, okay, there's metal-bound books that look like they're made of plastic, but are thousands and thousands of years old. Lambskin books, scrolls, things like that, made of exotic materials, or materials that shouldn't have been accessible in that way when the book was found. And these are actually kept in the Vatican and the Harvard Library. And again, Freddie Silva talks about this. I was watching an episode where Dave Wilcox was interviewing this guy Pete Peterson. This is from a long time ago, like 15 years ago. And he was talking about how he gained access to the Vatican Library. To get access to the Vatican Library as well as the Harvard Library, I don't know if there's more that have these special books in them, you have to have a serious clearance. Like even Freddie Silva talks about when he was researching First Templar Nation, with the great modern esoteric coded books around. You can learn a lot from that. It's one of the top recommendations I recommend for people that are starting to feel like they're being called to engage in mystery teachings. But he talks about how he has no idea when he was studying Portugal and studying the Templar Knights, which he was really actually studying the Templar monks. The story, the significance of his story, massive 1,200 references in the back, 8 to 12 year project, was he found out that there were monks, Templar monks, that were not associated with violence at all. Something else was, and he mentions, and I'd already heard about the Vatican one, from the Pete Peterson one, where he had special clearance to go into that library. Well, at the Harvard Library, Freddie Silva talks about how couldn't even, and he didn't even understand how he really got access to this, but he did. And he said, it's like something out of a movie where you go into this room, everybody's silent, and then these people come out and they open up this, it's like a, what do they call that? It's almost like a laundry chute type thing. Like the old thing where the butler would send the food in that little cubby and there'd be like a pulley system. Yeah, it's like one of those. It has like a special little area where you retrieve from, and these people bring it in wearing gloves, and it's like they treat it like a sacred object that it is. And to gain that, and then you can't remove it, obviously, and they watch you. You have to sit there in one room with the book, wearing gloves, and very particular. It's a lot of stuff's made out of lambskin. The one he was talking about was made out of lambskin. Okay, and part of how there are rules. There's only so far that what we would consider a negative species, there's only so much they can do. I mean, they can completely take over our consciousness with the problem of evil. But the reason they can do that is because if there's a species that thrives on us being confused and scared, then they're just surviving. So they're actually, and this becomes very complex, actually playing by the rules, but they have to do certain things. So we were talking about the removal of symbol and of thought form, such as, and then the bastardization of that thought form. The best example would be Mary Magdalena. Extremely important. They basically removed the divine feminine from the 3-point triangle, from the Hermes face, the ancient geometric symbol, and then they bastardized her by making her prostitute. So you remove a modern variation of this would be letters, what I was talking about. You remove UFO because it had gained too much spirit energy. It had gained too much of that coming through to where it was almost turning into us. It was almost negating the negative spirit stream attached to it, because UFO was originally a spirit stream. I want to go back into that. But in order to do that, you can also create a new pathway. So UAP would be the new pathway, and then you bastardize that new pathway, which is actually insulting the old pathway. So by them throwing all this, the DS throwing all of these ridiculous craft and brain entities and atmosphere, that's making fun of esoteric knowledge and convoluting it, because everybody knows who studies mysteries that if there was any sort of exotic, advanced, free energy type of craft, it wouldn't be heading towards us in an observable way. And I mentioned that before as well. So this is all taking ancient knowledge, like something that moves invisible instantly through time and space, just like thought, and making fun of it and taking advantage of the public's sci-fi mythologies and making it traveling in linear fashion. Because the longer you can observe it traveling, the more fear is drummed up. And people can act like they're excited about it, but there's going to be a strong element of fear, and even the people that are excited are partially scared. So that's how you switch around supernatural phenomenon to make it adhere to that DS script. So back to Freddy Silva, these Templar monks. Here, one of the best ways to look at how spirit workers were trying to work under the radar would be looking at the Templar monks, who set up underground initiation chambers all throughout Portugal in geometric shape, isosceles triangle shapes. Again, Freddy Silva's the master of this. And I'll even print up a picture of that, of those locations. These guys were rich men, wealthy men. They went through initiation. When the initiation was over, they saw something. I've seen this. I know what they've seen. They saw the Maya. They saw the game. What's going on here? They take all of their wealth, put it in a trust, and start digging tunnels, living like a hermit monk, living like not extravagant at all. The bare, just like Buddhist monks would live now, probably even less, even more primitive. And they didn't turn back. You see something during the initiation process, you come out of it, and then you give up everything, okay? And start working under the radar. At the time, we're talking about the Inquisition. I mean, we're talking about guys, if you get found out, you get flayed. These are the warriors, the spiritual warriors that set everything up so that something like the Phoenix Lights can happen when it did. And those guys would work under the radar, under the Roman Catholic Church's radar. But here's something interesting. The reason why we still have these books, oh, and by the way, no one knows how these books got to Harvard. No one knows how those books got to the Vatican. There's no record on how they got there. Freddy Silva says that verbatim. All these lambskin, metal-bound, ancient books. And why are they there? Why would the DS keep those books there? Because still having a record that you can search through, a lot of that stuff's, some of the pages are missing on a lot of that stuff. Some of it, the language isn't even, no one even knows how to decode that. What variations of that language. It could be Sanskrit, I don't know. But they still have those books because you still have to give the people the potential to figure things out. There always still has to be the potential to figure out what they're doing. And that allows them to operate without extreme intervention. Because if they were to destroy those books and completely erase the history, so people like me couldn't piece it together, people like Freddy, I'm not going to put myself in the same category as that brilliant guy, then we wouldn't be able to have a Phoenix